One of Elior's rabbis, a wise and revered rabbi known as the Radat, or as he's more colloquially known on PBS Kids, Rabbi Daniel Tiger, has some very good Torah that I'd like to share with you all this morning. Quote, "When you feel so mad that you want to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4. And that's good Torah. That is really good Torah. And listen, I need to start with a little bit of levity this morning because, boy, oh boy, have I been counting to 4 a lot this week. I've actually gotten in the triple digits a few times. And I need to give a heads up here because I'm probably going to get a little fired up over the next few minutes as well, so consider this your warning. Anger in general is not such a helpful emotion. It clouds our thinking, it prompts us to make irrational decisions or choose words that might be meant to harm rather than to heal or to build. But the driving force behind anger is real, and we should not ignore it or will it away. It's there because we feel hurt, betrayed, that something has changed for the worse, and it needs to be fixed. And so this morning I want to acknowledge that there is some anger in this room. And just to be clear, there's anger in this room for different reasons. It's been a tough week. And this morning I need to do something that's really tough for me and something that I don't do very often. In fact, I really never do it because I don't ever want to sound preachy or patronizing or holier than thou in any way. So I'm speaking to myself this morning too. But I need to give some tochacha. I need to give some reproof. And I guess it's a fitting morning for it because our parsha this morning includes the obligation to tochiach et amitecha velo tisa alav chet, to reprove your people, but incur no guilt from their account. So, here's the reproof I need to offer this morning. Ladies, you're good. Relax the next 8 minutes or so. Gentlemen, we've got to talk. As Jewish men, we have learned over our years some sage wisdom that when things are bad, when emotions get high, when there are feelings of frustration, despair, rage, that it's best if we just keep our mouths shut. And to be fair, that is in fact sometimes the best course of action. But as Jews of the conservative movement, Jews whose identity is linked to egalitarianism and respect and celebration of Jewish women and Jewish womanhood, we have right now not just an opportunity, but an obligation to speak up, loudly and publicly, to express our concern, our outrage, our vehement opposition to a Supreme Court decision that will overturn Roe v. Wade and will, without any doubt, put the lives of Jewish women and women as a whole at risk. A decision that, as we have discussed before from this bima, runs counter to Jewish law and upholds Christian supremacy in a country where religious freedom is supposed to be a cornerstone. Let me be clear from the onset that this obligation has nothing to do with how we might personally feel about abortion. I can't stress that enough. This is not a question about individual ethics, and I know that this topic is so hard and so painful and so challenging to so many people. It is, in the context of this conversation this morning, about upholding religious freedom and understanding that if we want, as Jews, to live Jewish lives in this country, then we must stand with our sisters and reject the implementation of a Christian theocracy. For their sake, for our sakes, for the good of pluralism, freedom, equality, and dignity. We have an obligation to break free from a mentality that the only significant decisions are the ones that affect us personally. We have an obligation to break free from the fallacious notion that because we may not have uteruses, that we get to sit this fight out. Rabbi Starr has spoken beautifully for the past year and change that one of the central theological motifs of our tradition is the consistent questioning and answering of Cain's protestation to Hashem, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Rabbi Starr has cogently and poetically shown us over and over again that the answer to this question is and should always be an unwavering yes. I am. And that answer doesn't change with gender. Am I my sister's keeper? Undoubtedly, without exception, emphatically, yes. That promise doesn't change when the dangers go beyond our understanding, or when they seem foreign to us. It is not our job to fully understand the threat. It is our job to trust that things are not black and white, to know that every situation is different, and that sometimes painful decisions are necessary to keep a woman alive, and that the preservation of life is of paramount significance in our tradition. Our promise to be keepers does not come with a footnote laying out conditions and stipulations. It's short and it's clear. We promise to be keepers. So let's be keepers. Because right now, the silence is palpable. Everywhere I look, my Twitter feed is filled with women expressing outrage. My Facebook news feed is consumed with articles written by women, images created by women, speeches given by women. And though there are some exceptions, and thank you to the exceptions, from Jewish men, we're getting bubkiss. And right now, we can't accept bubkiss. Because again, I just need to be clear about this. It's important. This isn't about our personal feelings on the morality of abortion. It's not. It isn't about us. It's about recognizing with humility and respect the democratic core of our modern nationhood, which is to let women control what happens to their body. And as Jews, it's about us understanding that this draft Supreme Court decision comes from an evangelical Christian right which cares not one iota about the religious beliefs of any other group in this country. One, two, three, four. Thank you, Rabbi Daniel Tiger. The nafkamina is this. The response to the challenge is this. We are just 2 weeks out from the celebration of Pesach, when we sat around the Seder table and we spoke repeatedly about freedom, about righteous women, and not to be lost in the narrative about how we treat the stranger in the wake of Yetziat Mitzrayim. And I want us to rethink what that means. What does it mean to love the stranger? Because that mandate, that mitzvah, to love the stranger does not just mean to love non-Jews. It means to love those who are fighting battles that might seem like they're not relevant to us. To love the stranger is to champion for those whose fights might differ from our own, and to recognize that if we truly care about one another, if we truly love and keep one another, then there is no such thing as a fight that doesn't affect us personally. The great Hasidic Rebbe, the seer of Lublin, once observed that he was at a tavern, and there were two people drinking together, friends who kept saying over to each other, "I love you, I love you." And the one turned to the other and said, "You don't love me." And the man continued, I do love you." And the first man responded back, "You don't love me. If you love me, why don't you know what hurts me?" Dafka, when our fight is the fight of our wives, our daughters, our mothers, our sisters, it should resonate deep in our bones and spark within us a fire of allyship that matches their pain, their anger, their sadness, and forces us to act. So let's act. Let's speak up. Let's stand up. And let's do this right. For Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, for Miriam, for Shifra and Pua, for Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah, for Hannah and Ruth, for Bruria, and for the countless women who have brought us here today, and for our sisters, our daughters, and the women of tomorrow. We're sorry it's taken us so long. We're sorry that we didn't believe you that this could happen. We're sorry that we thought we could sit this one out. We're sorry we forgot our ancient promise to be keepers. But we're here. We're here. And this time we're not keeping our mouths shut.